everybody, I am Tiffany and today I am bringing you another TV review. This is another one that one of you guys suggested to me, so thank you very much. It was the same person who I think requested Death Note. I've really been loving your guys' suggestions and I'm really happy that I'm able to get to a lot of them now, which is awesome. I love that feeling. This TV show today I have been waiting a while to review. It is another anime series and the show I am reviewing today is Tokyo Ghoul. I don't know how popular this anime was. I know it was a manga, which a lot of animes are based off of. I know the manga is supposed to be absolutely amazing. I haven't read the manga. I don't know if I will or not, but I kind of want to. I know there's a lot of stuff in the manga that was left out of the show, so I'm debating if I want to actually read it just to get some more backstory on stuff. But I will say, the show itself was really good to me. I really enjoyed it. I had a really fun time with it. I don't know if I've mentioned it in another video or not, but I am a person who likes these more twisted, dark stories in all honesty. I'm the type that I'm like, give me the pain and the feels and make me cry and make me go and just make me be completely flabbergasted by the end of it. Those are the best for me. And I will definitely say Tokyo Ghoul is that type of dark story. If you are looking for a pick-me-up in any way, no, don't go to this one. But it is a really great story. I've heard the manga is even 10 times better than the show, of course. The manga is the original content and has a lot more to it. The show had its flaws in itself, but overall, like I said, the storyline was still really good. The plot was really good. I loved all the characters, and I think they did the character development well. I still felt for every character. I was originally gonna try and record for each season of Tokyo Ghoul, but I got really into it and just started watching all of it, and I finished it before I could do a review on any of the other seasons. So I just decided to go ahead and do one giant review for all of the seasons in it. There are 3 different Tokyo Ghouls technically. There's the original, which is called Tokyo Ghoul. Then season 2 is Tokyo Ghoul Route A. And then you have Tokyo Ghoul Ray, which I guess is technically 2 seasons. There's also 2 specials called Tokyo Ghoul Jack and Tokyo Ghoul Pinto. That's right, I did my research because I am a completionist. Let's go. And yes, I found them and I watched them. I would suggest you do if you decide to actually try Tokyo Ghoul yourself, just because there's some backstory on some characters that you get in both of those specials that I think is really helpful for the later seasons. I think by far the best season, of course, is season 1. I think that one was the most accurate to its original content anyway, which would be the reason that is probably the best one. Season 2 I really liked too, and then Tokyo Ghoul Ray was probably the hardest to follow out of the bunch. I still had fun with it and I still loved the characters, but it definitely wasn't like the first 2 seasons for me. For those of you who want statistics, I'll rate each season for you since it's separated. The original Tokyo Ghoul got a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which is awesome. The second season got a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and then Tokyo Ghoul Ray got a 7.0 out of 10 on IMDb. As you can see, my ranking of the seasons coincides with the ratings on IMDb. For those of you who have no idea what Tokyo Ghoul is, it follows the main character Kaneki, and he lives in a world where there are humans and there are ghouls. Ghouls are basically almost like humans, except they have to actually feed on humans in order to survive. And it's a society where they kind of try and coexist, but humans hate ghouls and ghouls hate humans, and Kaneki ends up getting caught in the middle of it all. That's all I'm gonna tell you. I know that there's a lot more to the story than just that, but you need to go watch it for yourself, because one joy I did have in the show is that I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about it. The only research I did was to see the order to watch the series, because I didn't know, besides the original Tokyo Ghoul, if I should watch Route A first or Tokyo Ghoul Ray, but otherwise I didn't research any of the story beforehand. I think that makes it 10 times better. That is really all I can tell you without spoiling you, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you non-spoilery peeps go. Go watch Tokyo Ghoul. It is a lot of fun, and go read the manga. I haven't personally read it myself, but everybody says it's absolutely fantastic. Go watch, go read, form your own opinions, then come back and tell me how you feel about it. Goodbye, non-spoilery people. Goodbye! Spoilery time. I must say, this is some of the best character development I've seen in a very long time. Let's first talk about, of course, the first season in this show. It was kind of funny. I did start watching it on Hulu, and if you don't know this about anime, a lot of the times they censor stuff on there. They want it to be able to play on TV, and some animes can be violent, and Tokyo Ghoul is one of those violent animes. They do not hold back on stuff. So I ended up, with the help of Eddie, being able to find the non-censored versions because, yes, I wanted to see exactly what was happening instead of a dark blob. I didn't need it for Tokyo Ghoul Ray, but for the first 2 seasons, it was so much better having the non-censored version. But the first season of Tokyo Ghoul was absolutely great. You get introduced to Kaneki, and one thing I love about Kaneki is, yes, he starts off very meek, very shy, but he's not annoying. There's a tendency sometimes for those characters to be really annoying, especially when new things start happening to them, like this, where he becomes a ghoul against his will. Kaneki was just really awesome. I loved him from the beginning. And his best friend Hide was the best thing on the planet. I automatically loved this dude because he was just so loyal to Kaneki. The opening of the show, I think, really set the tone. You see Kaneki with Rize. She's hanging out at this coffee shop. Kaneki really likes her. You get introduced to Toka briefly. It was just a good setup for Kaneki. And you could tell that Rize was a ghoul and was probably going to try and kill him, which made it more intense, but it definitely set up the fact that ghouls were like everyday humans. They can disguise themselves as everyday humans. They come out when they gotta eat. And the very opening of the show definitely set the entire tone for the show, because you see this girl, who you find out later is Riza, binge eating a whole bunch of people, and it's crazy. And you get introduced to Jason. That first episode was definitely painful in a sense. As soon as Kaneki ends up surviving and he finds out he's a ghoul, you have to watch him go through the pain of trying to fight the urge to eat humans, but that's what his body needs. And you just feel his pain. You want him to be able to live his normal human life, hang out with Hide. You just see his struggle. And I think that's something that made the first season so good. It started a lot of character development. When he finally does go to the cafe where the owl is at and Toka's at, I'm glad that they automatically allowed Kaneki to get help from them, if that makes sense. He gets a cup of coffee, finds out they can have coffee. I'm a coffee person, so that was nice to me, in all honesty, where I was like, wow, out of all things you can have, you can at least still have coffee. That's great. It was just nice that they already said it, that he had a place to go, and I think that really helped. And I'm really annoyed that Kaneki didn't say anything to Hide, because let me tell you, you could tell right away that Hide knew what was up. As soon as he sees Kaneki again and says, you really need to eat, I was like, he knows. And Kaneki doesn't want to hurt him, and he tries to hide it, but I'm just like, he's your best friend, bro. He's at the cafe all the time. He doesn't question you. He is like the most loyal person ever. I think the episode for me, besides just the opening and knowing the tone, that really made me go, oh, okay. Well, one, you have the part with Nishiki, who basically tries to kill Kaneki, but also the whole part with Hinami and her storyline. You get introduced to Hinami, you know her father's in danger, but she's with her mom at the cafe. And the moment that made me go, okay, it's gonna be that type of show, was the moment where her mom got killed. That was the first time that I cried in Tokyo Ghoul, because oh my god, they don't care if they kill characters. It puts everything 10 times higher in intensity. That ghoul investigator, he was the most annoying thing on the planet, and he used the own kinke of her dad against it. Do you know what I'm saying? I just sat there fuming the whole entire time. In season 1, you also get introduced to Gourmet. Gourmet did not start off great because he tried to kill Kaneki. But oh my gosh, he's just so much fun, in all honesty. He loves Kaneki in his own twisted way. It was still really great to see Gourmet. But that sequence where he throws Kaneki into that whole show thing, and there's a bunch of other ghouls that are trying to see who's gonna win between Kaneki and this brute. It was intense. It was intense. And the whole fight with Toka, that was great. You saw Toka's strength. Toka's awesome. I wanted her and Kaneki to get together way faster than it did. I had to wait till Tokyo Ghoul Ray. It was really, really cool to see her full power, because you hadn't really seen it up until that point. And the fact that she had to use Kaneki, feed on him basically, in order to beat Gourmet was really cool. And that's the first time you see a true connection between Kaneki and Toka. They're meant to be together. No one's allowed to take them away. I don't know how rushed it was compared to the manga, in all honesty, but the moment with Jason, he had to sit through like, I think 3 or 4 episodes of torture. That's what it felt like. That whole torture sequence was absolutely insane. Having the uncensored version of it, I think, enhanced it. You felt it more, and you knew Kaneki was going to be completely different from what he originally started off on. That was going to be a major, major, major change. They all want to go save Kaneki, and the one thing that Yoshimura, the manager, says is that we're not going to get Kaneki back. I knew what he meant was that Kaneki's not going to be the same Kaneki. Even if he does come back to the cafe, he's not going to be the Kaneki they met and loved. Kaneki. That was absolutely intense. He ends up joining the Aogiri, and you see Toka just absolutely crushed. Boy, I would be too. I'd be like, I just risked my life for you. My brother tried to attack me, and now you're gonna leave? All of his decisions, while some you didn't completely agree with, you knew were to try and protect the ones he loved. And that's what made you love Kaneki even more than you already did. And now we're gonna get into season 2, which is Route A. That whole knuckle cracking thing, I will say, it gave me chills every time I saw it, especially in the later seasons with Tokyo Ghoul Rei. Every time you just saw him go like, everything's about to go down. It was really hard in the second season seeing Kaneki struggle. You had this transformation between this guy who was more shy and meek in the first season, and all of a sudden he had to step up to the plate. He got kidnapped and tortured basically until insanity, and he had to find this dark place within himself in order to survive that. Now he's at a point where he doesn't feel pain, but he feels like he needs to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and you see him mutate. That was I have a thing about mutations or people turning into something kind of against their will. It kind of creeps me out. This was on the verge for me. His transformation is so crazy. That is some of the craziest character development I've seen, and it's fantastic. You have some really good moments in season 2, though I think a lot of people got really mad at the ending of it. You still have a ton of good moments in season 2. You have the moment where he goes to the cafe briefly, and then everyone tells Toka that he was just there, and Toka runs to him and catches up to him, and they have kind of that moment there, even though he doesn't stay at the end of the day. You see Toka's transformation. I think season 2 is a big part of that, is seeing her grow up in a way and really having to defend for herself. She wants to live that normal human life. She ends up going to the same school that Kaneki was going to go to, or applies there, I believe. So it makes the ending of season 2 really, really intense. Season 2 is where I really started to see some character development kind of fall through. First of all, you have the one-eyed twins, that's what I call them. You learn in the past that they used to not be ghouls, and they worked with actually this one ghoul investigator now called Suzuya, who the one thing I didn't like about that is you see this big confrontation. This is where you kind of see Suzuya a little bit unhinged because of everything he's gone through. The one twin gets really, really injured. They run off, but you don't really ever see them again. And that kind of surprised me because I thought I would see them more. They end up showing up in Tokyo Ghoul Rei, but the one twin that was injured died. But they weren't in it as much as I thought they would be. I don't know if it's like that in the manga as well, but I feel like they play a major plot point because of the fact that Kaneki was operating on, and that's how in the world he ended up getting to become a ghoul, because he has Riza's intestines basically inside him, and that's what happened to them too. And I felt like there was a major plot point kind of missed with that, or I just felt like something was missing because they weren't there. I will say though, the development of the ghoul investigators in this season was really, really good. There were certain characters in the ghoul investigators that I really liked, and I didn't want them to die. I didn't want them to be the ghouls that I was cheering for. Suzuya's mentor was one of those. He was very strict on what he believed, and I would get mad when he heard a character that I liked. I still really liked his character. I felt like he had very strong morals and wasn't hot-headed, and felt like he was doing the right thing, and I respect that, I guess. Unlike Amon, who is the main person after Kaneki, who I just feel was very hot-tempered. And granted, his mentor died. I just felt like he was very stubborn. And knowing his backstory did help because he was raised by this priest that would just eat kids, basically. But still, he was just annoying to me for a good majority of it because of the fact that Kaneki's trying to show him they can coexist together. They don't have to be attacking each other always, but he still tries to beat Kaneki up, and I'm just like, what? And Suzuya's overall character development in the whole entire show I think is one of the best. It is really cool seeing the transition from the end of season 2 to where he is in Tokyo Ghoul Rei. I think that's really awesome. But the troublesome part of season 2 was definitely the ending, and that is because I found out through Eddie actually a big plot point they changed in the anime that was big in the manga. Especially after seeing Tokyo Ghoul Rei, I realized just how big that plot point is. First of all, that whole battle sequence was absolutely insane. You learn about the owl, who is of course Yoshimura, but you also learn about his daughter and you see her for the first time. You have a lot of people die. You have Amon die, technically. You have Suzuya's mentor go into a coma. You have the owl die, and his two sidekicks as well. That was really, really sad. But the biggest thing is with Kaneki in this battle. We see this epic battle between Amon and Kaneki. Kaneki ends up being completely wiped out afterwards, but he ended up killing Amon. I gotta backtrack a little bit with Hide now. Now, Hide Hide, we know, has been basically by Kanaki's side. After Kaneki goes to Aogiri, Hide tries to infiltrate the Ghoul investigators in order to protect Kaneki, and I thought that was really awesome. So what ends up happening is, because of that, when this huge battle happens, Hide is there. And the next time we see him is in the cafe with Kaneki, and it's this really emotional moment because Kaneki never really revealed that he was a ghoul to Hide. You see that someone's bleeding, and then all of a sudden you realize it's Hide, and I was very, very upset because they had him killed. And there's this really sad moment at the end where Kaneki is holding Hide in his arms, and he brings him to Arima, who is one of the top ghoul investigators, if not the top. All of a sudden you think that Kaneki is maybe killed by Arima, and then it ends. And when I heard what the ending was in the manga, I so wished they had done this in the show. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have read the manga. That's not what happens to Hide. Kaneki ends up fighting Arima and almost dies from it. And as he's crawling in the sewers, I believe, he comes across Hide and he feeds on Hide. And the manga ends with you not knowing if Hide is alive or dead. But you have this struggle of Kaneki believing he killed his best friend. And when you transition to Tokyo Ghoul Ray, you realize how much you need that plot point. Kaneki doesn't remember anything about himself in Tokyo Ghoul Ray. He's considered Heise now. They kind of brainwashed him, which annoyed me. And it makes more sense when you realize that he potentially killed Hide. His subconscious just erased everything. And the ending in the show just did not work because I was confused through Tokyo Ghoul Ray. But I know that that ending pissed off a lot of people. Now let's get to Tokyo Ghoul Ray. These were confusing. I will say I was very happy going into it that I watched those specials because I got a lot of backstory on Arima and I got backstory on a friend of Gourmet. I didn't know much about Arima. You just saw him like in the last part of the season 2 and he's supposed to be a big major character. But here's the problem with Tokyo Ghoul Ray. A lot of backstory was definitely not introduced, which made stuff confusing. I haven't read the manga, but even I could tell that Tokyo Ghoul Ray was rushed. They wanted to get to the big major action sequences, but they missed so much good stuff. I needed Eddie to actually explain a lot of what was happening to me. First of all, I didn't know Tokyo Ghoul Ray jumped ahead that many years. And so when I saw that he was an investigator, I was like, what? What do you mean Kaneki is an investigator and doesn't remember anything? What about him and Toka? It just created frustration. I hate that storyline. I hate when people forget stuff because it takes so long for them to remember. The moment where Hinami saves him, he kind of remembers her and protects her from being executed in a way. That was nice, but I wanted him to remember. And the moment where he goes into the cafe and then just starts crying and he doesn't know why when he sees Toka. She's your true love, bro. So I think that was really the tough part for me, was the fact though that there were some major character developments that just did not happen. One major thing with that is with Toru Mutsuki, I think that's how you say it, who is one of Kaneki's students. Towards the end of the anime, you see that she wants Kaneki to love her. And she goes really crazy and almost kills him. I went, what the heck? Because that came out of nowhere for me. They don't give any of her backstory. For me, it didn't convey that. Apparently she was abused. That's a big major reason she is the way that she is. That wasn't conveyed to me at all. Still though, it did have its moments. The moment Jinshi Shirasu, the moment he died, that made me cry. That moment they did absolutely beautifully. He was my favorite. I think they did his character development pretty well, though you don't really get a follow-up that much on his sister, but he was really, really great, and I loved his character, and I thought the death they did beautifully for him. The whole thing with Toka and Kaneki finally happened, and they planned that perfectly too, but I was upset afterwards. You have them get together, then she gets pregnant, and then they get married, and I'm just sitting there going, this is great, but we still got a couple more episodes left, and usually when they squeeze all of this good stuff into one, some major stuff is about to go down. And I was right, because Kaneki loses complete control and they have to save him. And I will say this is one of the few storylines that has a really good ending, and I'm happy that it did because they went through so much in this, and I was gonna be so upset if Kaneki was not there for his child. I was gonna cry. I liked Gourmet's storyline in all of this, how he was very distraught and pretty much broken because he thought Kaneki was dead, and then he has to deal with his own personal emotions because of the fact that Heise or Kaneki seems happy, but then he wants to tell him how he was before. You can tell Gourmet kind of wants it how it was before and having to accept that it's not going to be the way it was before. His family protecting him the way that they did was really, really strong, even though the one girl you didn't really get to know a lot about that would like curtsy and go like, and kiss him. I'm glad that they showed even that little tidbit, because that was nice. You saw that and then you felt the emotional impact of her dying. Yeah, the whole thing about the Washu clan and that it's run by ghouls, so basically the whole ghoul investigator system is a lie. That's such a strong plot point. And the fact that Arima was involved in it, and he wasn't a ghoul, but he was enhanced, and there were others like him, or ones that were true ghouls, and they were running everything, and then they have to join all together. That was really nice. But again, everything was just rushed. It was fun, but it was rushed, and it sucked because it felt like you couldn't sit on a plot point long enough. I should have had more episodes to it, in my opinion, because there was a lot of good stuff, just wasn't fully fulfilled. That is really all I have to say about this. Thank you so much for suggesting this. This was really, really fun to watch, and don't be afraid to suggest more. I've watched a lot of anime actually since this. It's just really fun to do reviews on this stuff. Everything is so complicated, and that's one thing I love about animes. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any other book, movie, TV recommendations, leave them in the comments below. If you want any updates on anything, go to tiffanybooksanmovies.blogspot.com. That is my blog, and it just gives you updates on new videos posted, any acting stuff that's going on. Since I'm an actress, it's just kind of fun to keep up. So go check that out if you'd like as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this in. Don't forget to be awesome. Goodbye! Whoa!